Delivering 4 separate but concurring judgments, the apex court today ruled that identity was equivalent to divinity, that it was time to bid adieu to prejudices so as to empower all citizens alike without any alienation. The 493-page judgment said that history must apologize to the LGBTQ community for the delay in ensuring their rights, and adding that denial of self-expression was akin to inviting death.
Namaskar, I'm Yashwinder, and today is the 6th of September, the day when the entire LGBTQ community in India realized what the freedom is all about. And that was granted to us by our Honorable Supreme Court in a landmark judgment against IPC Section 377 on 6th of September in 2018.
I remember, there was just like that interview was happening. I was holding Section 377 go back in my hand, and it was a live interview. And then they announced that Section 377 is gone. It's strike down, and I just teared that paper, saying that is we are not criminal anymore. We are not. You don't hold our sexual freedoms and gender identities and sexualities in your damn punitive laws, and we are liberated, we are free, and we are also part of this Hindustan, which is extremely important.
I will begin by saying that the September 9th, 2020 will mark 2 years of the Navtej Singh Johar judgment, and it's been we look back upon it from the perspective of 2 years. We can sense why this judgment was an important one, and we can see changes which are happening in society because of this judgment. I'll give you 2 examples. One is the Uttarakhand High Court, and the second is the Orissa High Court, both of which have recognized the right of 2 people in love, regardless of gender, to be in a relationship, regardless of what their parents may think. And both of them explicitly invoke the Navtej Singh Johar judgment. So we can see how the judgment has actually resulted in a change at the ground level in terms of the way the judiciary has responded, in terms of the way people have been willing to take initiative and say we want to live with each other, because this judgment recognizes our right to love. The journey began in 1994 when AIDS Bhedbhav Virodhi Andolan filed a petition challenging the constitutionality of Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code. The reason that judgment did not go anywhere is because ABV as a group at some point in time became dysfunctional or was not able to take the petition forward, and the petition was actually dismissed for non-prosecution, which is why the story of 1994 ended in 2000 odd itself. And 2001, Lawyers Collective filed a petition on behalf of NAS Foundation, again challenging Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code. And the impetus of the 2001 petition was broadly coming from the framework of NAS Foundation. Because NAS Foundation is an organization which works on HIV/AIDS interventions, and their entire point is, as long as the law is there, what the law does is it puts in place a barrier to the ability of men having sex with men to access condoms or to access safer sex protections, because it puts them in fear of the law. It drives sexual activity underground. Its sex becomes much more risky, and that was the petition which was filed in 2001.
My work on Section 377 started long before the petition was filed in the Delhi High Court. We were thinking, the Lawyers Collective and Anand Grover and Indu were thinking of filing it in the Bombay High Court first with me as the petitioner, because the Bombay High Court had the most progressive, judges. However, there was the AIDS Bhedbhav Virodhi Andolan petition that was already in the Delhi High Court, so they decided to go there. But it was Bombay Dost which first published the article on how Section 377 made us all criminals in the eyes of the law. and said that because of this section of the IPC, it would be very difficult to work with this community because it was declared criminal for what? Because of its sexuality. And that's when we decided, at least I did in 1990, in the first issue of Bombay Dost, that we needed to fight Section 377 before we could go forward.
The film Fire, which was released in 1998 and depicted a same-sex lesbian relationship, whether that played a part in propelling this movement forward. I think, yes, the film really brought attention and brought the issue of same-sex sexuality, that too in the context of women, out in the public domain for the first time. So it really did play a part, but I think more than the film, it was the sense of anger and indignation that lesbian women and queer activists felt at that time when right-wing forces vandalized theatres and demanded a ban on the screening of the film. It was that anger, that indignation, the fact that it was not just the freedom of expression around the film, but it was the freedom of expression around the subject of the film, of same-sex sexuality, that was the real problem. And their determination to fight this silence and invisibility surrounding queer lives, I think it's thanks to that we then, fostered this bright and strong queer rights movements with groups like Galeri back then in the forefront.
And if you read the 2009 judgment, the 2009 judgment understands the HIV/AIDS dimension and specifically says that the health ministry has got an affidavit saying that 377 does impede HIV/AIDS intervention. But the 2009 judgment of Justice Shah, Justice Muralidhar, goes several steps ahead because it makes the point that what Section 377 violates is your right to privacy, the right to dignity, and the right to equality. It basically made the point that to discriminate on grounds of sexual orientation or gender identity is really a way of violating what the judges call constitutional morality. So there's a way in which the rights of the LGBT community are really part of the broader democratic rights in this country as per 2009 judgment. Of course, 2013 we had a very, very big setback when the court ruled Section 377 constitutional and overruled the Delhi High Court judgment. And that, of course, we've talked about in the past, has been described by Vikram Seth as a bad day for Law and Love.
I still remember 11th of December when a very regressive judgment came with regard to 377, and post it again we kind of recollectivized and we thought of filing the writ petitions. So I was one of the co-petitioners in the petition which was filed by the Humsafar Trust, my organization.
We were standing there and we came to know that is Supreme Court has reinstated Section 377, and we all were crying. I mean, there wasn't any division related to LGBTQI. These were just one community who was standing there and saying that is Section 377 go back. We shall not bow down on these punitive laws that reference our freedom, that reference our dignity, and that reference us from living the way who we are and how we want to express ourselves.
When we filed the petition in 2001 in the Delhi High Court, we were asked this question, that do you think changing the law is going to change social attitudes towards homosexuality? And our answer back then was, well, as lawyers or human rights lawyers, our role is to change the law. Society can follow suit and change gradually. But in the year 2013, when the Supreme Court actually reinstated Section 377, brought back criminalization, which the Delhi High Court had done away with, we obviously, had failed to change the law. But the social outcry, the condemnation against the Supreme Court judgment was overwhelming. And one incident that I remember was of my own aunt, a person who's quite homebound, who's not socially exposed, a regular conservative Punjabi woman. She called me the day of the Supreme Court judgment and said what the court did was wrong. There is no need to criminalize people for who they love. And that day I thought to myself that perhaps the law hasn't changed, but society has. And that to me was the real victory, though of course the victory in court came much later.
I belong to a Hijra Gharana. I belong to a larger umbrella of transgender community, which encompasses trans men, trans women, intersex people, Hijra, Jogti, Jogappa, and all sorts of identity. It's just not one identity. And Section 377 has had different impact on all these communities, particularly, especially what I have seen during the Section 377 that I would like to talk about. Initially, there has been a very much unanimous efforts on Section 377, where everybody was talking about one language. Everybody was happy after Delhi High Court judgment, and then there was Supreme Court judgment on reinstating Section 377. Transgender people has been always forefront of the LGBTI movement. You see a Stonewall right also in US or any other movement also. You've always seen that is trans women, trans people, women with the color of transgender have been always at the forefront of the battle because they face acute amount of stigma and discrimination and hatred from the society. Hate crime, murders, rapes on the transgender people are much more severe and intense. So the transgender community was also intensely working on their right and on their freedom for almost a decade, parallelly along with Section 377. And on 15th April 2014, we actually the Supreme Court judgment came, which said that is the transgender people are also part of a society, and they recognize transgender people as a third gender population. Now, immediately after, what has happened is that there has been a lot of misconceptions about this entire judgment. Clearly, Supreme Court did not talk about sexual freedom, sexual rights. It didn't talk about civil rights or anything about. It just acknowledged a community as a third gender. But as a result of that, a part of the transgender or Hijra community started saying that, hey, listen, we are not homosexual people. We are not gay people. We are not part of the LGBT people. We are straight women. We are transgender women, and we don't want to be associated with this movement because we already got our freedom with 15th April 2014. I've seen a lot of transgender women jokingly said that is, I'm not criminal anymore, but they would say to their gay friend that is, you are a criminal, I'm not a criminal. So those myths and misconceptions prevail, and for a certain amount of time the movement between LGB and T has been divided. It remained like that for some amount of time, when actually people who were working at the think tank at the larger level decided that, hey, come on, we have to come together. We have done piece of work, but we have to do a bigger piece of work which has to be together. We may be different identities like LGBTI+++++, but what is important for us is there's a common thread about civil rights that binds us together. There's a common thread of gender-based violence which bind together. There is a common thread about basic human rights which you have been denied about and rejected from, which includes workplace inclusion, which includes educational policies and other related aspects for which we have to work together.
In 2015, good old Shashi Tharoor decided to introduce a private member bill in Parliament to try to decriminalize homosexuality by reading down Section 377 or striking it down through a bill in the Lok Sabha. However, I found it very haphazard, not very well thought of, and he had not consulted the community. Usually we had a very large set of community consultations before anything like that went ahead, and especially an important bill like this to be brought by Shashi. I do understand it was a well-meaning thing, but I don't think I think it was some sort of tokenism. That's the way I felt about that bill.
Private bills were passed by many of the MPs, and I still remember that how it was not even allowed to be tabled in the House. So I strongly believe, the parliamentarians, our governments, our representatives, so they are the people who are working for us. They are our voices. In our society, all kind of people do exist, and this is their responsibility that they should take these voices, and work on providing the solutions.
I think the big point for us is that the bad day very soon turned into a good day when in 2018, which is exactly 2 years ago to this day, the Supreme Court delivered the judgment of Navdeep Singh Johar, overruling NAS Foundation and striking down or reading down Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code.
A fact remains is that when for the first time I came to know that Supreme Court has actually apologized to the LGBTI community, saying that is, this has been done a long back, but the jurisdiction holds an apology for not allowing LGBTI rights to live their freedom, their rights, and it was a big thing because the apex body of the judiciary was actually saying that is, hey, listen, we messed up in our decision. We could have given these rights to you a long back. The second thing, the immediate thing that was coming into my mind was the mixed reactions. One is that this entire disbelief that, oh my God, is that really happen? Is this really happen? Like, is this really happen? Especially in the government, which is not so supportive to the LGBTI community, was really I was living in complete disbelief. The second thing it happened, that is, immediate thing that synced in my heart was that fact remains is, oh my God, this means that we have to move forward, we have to work together, we have to move towards a bigger objectives, and at the same time we have to make sure that is this young LGBTI people who are all the young Abhinas or any other people who are at the age of 15, 16, 14, just coming into their sexuality and right, we must convey the historic journey. We must convey how we have struggled. I come from a dinosaur age where we did not have phones and the digital cameras which I'm shooting right now on. But the fact remains is that, just helping these youngsters to understand, kitne dar mein hum jiye. Every time when we were having sexual activity, we were really scared. People were having sexual activities in bushes, in toilets, and I don't know wherever they are, because they can't even just go to a hotel and say that, hey, listen, this is my partner and we want to have a good time, and I want to have a dignified space to do that so the people have lived in a very difficult situation. I just thought that is, we have to convey that institutional memory, that strugglesome memory to these youngsters who will be able to take forward this journey to a certain level with new way of thinking. Section 377, when it was announced, the one thing that really helped was that we got support all across the India, not only from the LGBTI community, from outside the LGBTI community. I remember IITians, I remember corporate sector, I remember hoteliers, I remember industrial people coming forward and saying that, hey, listen, new India, wake up, just don't close your eyes and say that we are complacent about this fact that is okay, the such kind of prejudice laws has to prevail for LGBTI community. No, we said no. Now we need our rights now, we need our freedom now, and we want to create this new inclusive Queeristan. We want to create this new inclusive Queeristan, which is talking about principle which talks about dignity, equality, equity, rights and freedom for everybody, irrespective of what your sexuality is, what your gender is, and what sexual activity you are doing. But I think I also felt that there is an important work that needs to happen within the LGBTI community, is to not get complacent because Section 377 has gone, and come forward and say that, hey, listen, we have got one foot into the door and now it is our duty to open this entire door for the LGBTI community. That's what exactly I feel at that point of time.
When the Supreme Court judgment came on September 6th, 2018, first there was this burst of joy that we had finally succeeded after nearly 25-30 years of being together, fighting it, discussing it, what were the issues, how it would affect the various communities of LGBTQ+. And I was overjoyed. And then soon after that, I got concerned. I got concerned because the real work was ahead. Today, for example, a lot of people come and say, youngsters come and say, I want to get married. Well, there's no marriage yet for same sex. I want to be a surrogate father and adopt a child. No adoption rights, no right to surrogacy. I want to sort of pass on my inheritance to my lover. It really can't be done until you have a common civil code. Okay? So that's gone. So there are no citizenship entitlements. Simple thing like you could get sacked, you could be harassed. Even in the Nalsa, you only have 1 year this punishment for assaulting a hijra, whereas for women it's more than 3 years, especially things like sexual assault. So there are uneven laws, there are uneven civil codes, there are uneven marriage codes, there are uneven inheritance codes, there is no anti-discrimination law. So what exactly is the use of anything expecting that, by reading down and you're being decriminalized, reading down to Section 377, it's an empty victory in more ways than one. But it's a big victory. Let us not discount it. We have been made equal citizens of the Republic. But beyond that, there's a lot of work to be done.
Of course, hearing the judges announce the decision one after one, 5 judges, there was of course a lot of joy and exuberance. But I think that night I felt very different. That night and the next morning, the developments of the day sort of sunk home, and I thought to myself that an injustice of a century and a half, 150 years, has been exorcised. And there was this feeling that this sense of darkness and gloom had dispelled, that a heavy burden was lifted, and I simply felt quite free, happy and equal. And I really again felt a deep sense of gratitude for being part of the generation that witnessed this change. And I joke to my friends that as we grow older, we will then say to younger people that once upon a time it was criminal to be gay, and we have witnessed that change. Just like now, it's hard to imagine that women had no rights to suffrage, or women did not have the right to vote at one point. Now it really seems odd. Really, was that the case? I think for future generations it will really be like that. Really? It was criminal to be yourself? But I am so glad to be a witness and a contributor to this change.
I think in 2018, our entire feeling was this is a moment which is long overdue. It has to happen now. I think the big moment for us was really 2009 when the Delhi High Court took several steps ahead of its time. By 2018, the court was really behind public opinion. The media was with us, the public opinion was with us, and the judiciary just had to catch up with the rest of society as well. And again, if you look at the thinking within the judges of the Supreme Court itself, I think from 2013 to 2018, there's a significant shift in the way the government itself responded to the petition, because the government both in 2013 and 2018 did not oppose the reading down of Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code. In 2013, it was basically 2 judges who stood between us and decriminalization. In 2018, it was the government which was with us, who did not oppose us, and so were the judges as well.
Well, the initial feeling was like, wow, I mean, it has happened. I mean, it was very difficult to believe that yes, this has happened. And I still remember I was in the Honorable Supreme Court, and the judges were, delivering the judgment, and I mean, there was a vibe of positivity. One could feel it. Whether you're an LGBTQ or an ally or any person who is from the mainstream society. So everybody was kind of celebrating it as if the country has achieved something today, and yes, it did. in the real sense, where they try to kind of bring an equality for all the citizens. And so the day was mixed with all the emotions. We cried, we kind of danced, we enjoyed it, but I can say this is a very, very precious day to me. I mean, it's like heart, so it's here, which you I mean, in true sense, if you ask me, I think the whole LGBTQ community got freedom in the real sense only on 6th of September 2018, when we know that we are no longer a criminal in this country. In our own home, we are no longer criminals. So yeah, that is very, very special day to me.
To be very honest, the striking down of the Section 377 has given us our constitutional rights back to be who we are, and the freedom to love whoever we want, and the rights to our privacy as well. I think it was a very big step going forward, giving us the power that the Constitution has given us to live freely as we want. In terms of how I feel about this personally and what it meant to me when the section was stricken down, was there was of course a lot of common joyous feeling that we shared as a community. Even though I have come out way before that, but I think it meant a lot in the sense of how the community had enjoyed this, and it is a big it's a big step forward in our long fight that continues as we go on. I think it is important for me when it was brought down to realize, and the sense of a kind of calm and comfort in finding my community, networking with them, finding opportunities to share with the like-minded people in the community, to form bonds as we go forward. And of course, as a society, as being part of the society, no matter how minuscule we are, it is important that the rights are with us. One thing that I would like to say, that it is one step in the fight that we have been fighting for a long time. There are a lot of people that we have lost in this journey. There are a lot of people that who have tirelessly fought for what we have achieved today. So we have to be very appreciative and thankful to them as we go on. We also have to remember that there are still a lot of our community, our transgender sisters and brothers, who have not been given the full freedom to live their lives, and we have to fight against the transgenders bill as we go on.
एक मन में हमेशा डर रहता था कि आप कहीं भी जा रहे हो, किसी से भी मिल रहे हो, तो और अगर आपको पुलिस ने पकड़ लिया तो क्या होगा, आपकी फैमिली पे क्या इम्पैक्ट होगा, आपके फ्रेंड सर्कल पे क्या इम्पैक्ट होगा, मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंटली आपकी जॉब पे क्या इम्पैक्ट होगा. Because still there is a taboo in the society कि लोग इसको गंदी नज़रों से देखते हैं, इसको क्राइम समझते थे स्पेशली. तो इससे लोगों के कॉन्फिडेंस पे, इससे लोगों के लाइफस्टाइल पे, द वे दे वांट टू लिव, बहुत ज़्यादा इम्पैक्ट होता था. For a boy who is from a conservative family, for a boy who is from a joint family like me, there was so much scarcity within the within myself. उससे प्रॉब्लम ये होती थी कि आपके अंदर एक लैक ऑफ कॉन्फिडेंस रहता था. आप किसी से भी बात कर रहे हो, आप खुल के जी नहीं पा रहे, एक हमेशा सा एक डिप्रेशन काइंड ऑफ हमेशा से आपको घेरा रहता था, क्योंकि there is a certain feelings within you which you cannot talk within your family, especially with to your friend. For example, आप कोई अगर डेटिंग एप्लीकेशन भी यूज कर रहे हो तो लोग मिलते थे एक दूसरे से, बट एक और मन में डर रहता था कि पुलिस अगर वहाँ पे फेक प्रोफाइल्स बना के अगर लोगों को ट्रैक कर रही है, बिकॉज बीइंग गे वाज इलीगल. बीइंग गे वाज इलीगल फॉर द इंडियन सोसाइटी एज पर द इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. तो आपको उसके लिए सजा हो सकती थी.
पिछले 2 सालों में बहुत सारी चीज़ें हुई हैं, चाहे फिर वो पॉलिटिक्स हो, स्पोर्ट्स हो, एंटरटेनमेंट हिस्ट्री हो, या फिर कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर हो. सारी की सारी इंडस्ट्री मिलकर सामने आ रही हैं इंक्लूजन एंड डाइवर्सिटी को सपोर्ट करने के लिए, जो कि बहुत ज़्यादा काबिल तारीफ है, बहुत ज़्यादा सराहनीय वाली बात है. एंड मैं अपने आप को बहुत ब्लेस फील करता हूँ, क्योंकि मुझे अपनी आइडेंटिटी को लेकर ज़्यादा दिक्कतों का सामना नहीं करना पड़ा, क्योंकि द ललित सूरी हॉस्पिटैलिटी ग्रुप ने मुझे मेरी पहचान दी है, मुझे एक्सेप्ट किया है, जैसा मैं हूँ एंड मुझे आज मैं जो भी हूँ जैसा हूँ बिकॉज ऑफ ललितसुरी हॉस्पिटैलिटी ग्रुप। एंड पिछले 2 सालों में काफ़ी ऐसी कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर्स की कंपनीज सामने आई हैं जिन्होंने अपनी पॉलिसीज़ में काफ़ी चेंजेस किए हैं LGBTQ+ कम्युनिटी के लिए मेन स्ट्रीम में आने के लिए, जैसे कि सेम सेक्स पार्टनर के लिए मेडिकल इंश्योरेंस है, ट्रांसजेंडर्स कम्युनिटी के लिए जेंडर अफर्मेशन सर्जरी का इंश्योरेंस है, जो कि बहुत अच्छी बात है।
It is important though that we take a step back and we also sit down and we celebrate what we have achieved so far. It is important that we acknowledge that no matter how hopeless we've felt as a community at one point, there is always a ray of hope and we have to fight for that. Right now we are experiencing a global pandemic that none of our generation had ever imagined, but no better knows about how to live on hope than our community. So I hope that everyone holds on to that hope and continue our fight, because this is just one step forward. The judiciary has given us the freedom to for the society to acknowledge and recognize, but remember that for the societal change to come, it takes forever. So please keep your hopes up, but continue to fight. Celebrate wherever you are stuck, whether it's with your in a native place, or whether you are working tirelessly from home. Take a minute out and tell yourself how far you have come and celebrate that moment.
एक धारा है जो मुझे अपने पार्टनर के साथ घूमने में, कहीं आने में जाने में एक दायरा था कि मैं अपने पार्टनर के साथ अगर कहीं जाती हूँ तो मेरे मन में एक डर लगा रहता था कि कहीं कोई आके मेरे पे कोई केस ना कर दे कि आप अपने पार्टनर के साथ यहाँ क्यों बैठे हो। लोगों की एक सोच थी शुरू में, जब मीडिया ने बार बार दिखाया कि 377 हट चुका है, मैं बहुत खुश थी कि मैं अपने पार्टनर के साथ शादी कर सकती हूँ, जैसे कि मैं ट्रांस हूँ, मैं बच्चा अडॉप्ट कर सकती हूँ। बट जब बाद में लॉ आया और मैंने उसको पढ़ा तो वहाँ पे मुझे पता चला कि शादी करने का अधिकार तो मुझे है नहीं, बट घूमने का अधिकार है। जो एक क्रिमिनल का एक टैग लगा हुआ था वो केवल हटा है, बाकी और कुछ नहीं बदला है।
After 377, my life especially has changed a lot. Within a month after the verdict, when Supreme Court decriminalizes homosexuality, the first thing which I did was coming out to my family. And it was really easy for me that time, because for me it was really helpful to tell them like it's not illegal, it's not abnormal, because Indian Medical Association, Indian Psychiatric Society already ये बोल चुके थे कि being a homosexual is not abnormal. Plus अब जब Indian Constitution भी इसको as an illegal activity से उस crime से हटा चुका था, so it was easy for me to tell my family like I'm not a criminal, I'm not abnormal. Plus I was into a committed relationship, or so it was really easy for me to tell her like in future I can live with him. Because there won't be anyone, लोग फोन करेंगे पुलिस को और पुलिस हमें रातों रात उठा के ले जाएगी. So this really helped me to gain that confidence in myself, like I can really come out to people, I can really live my own life the way I want. Initially, before 377, people used to comment whatever I'm wearing, the way I'm talking, the way I'm walking. But after 377, when people started knowing about myself, it was really helpful for me to live within the society. Because उसके बाद जब आप criminal नहीं हो तो आपके मन में एक वो अपने आप एक confidence आता है कि हाँ आप सही थे और सही हो और सही रहोगे. So दूसरी चीज ये हुई कि I came out to my friends and they were really happy. Although there was a constant dialogue, like we already knew from their side, but I was really happy that they are with me. They don't have any issue that I am gay, but I am still a person which I was before. Also, I came out within my office, and my colleagues were also really happy because they had no idea like I can be gay. Like when I came out to them, my colleagues were shocked, and But after a point, she was like, I'm happy for you, at least you come out to me. And that certainly create a positive environment in the team, because you feel very connected when people know about you. So in all aspects, you can live freely. You can wear whatever you want. You can talk whatever you want. You can you can feel whatever you want. People don't judge you that way. Like, people don't hate you or don't consider it as more stigma. I know still it's a taboo in the society, but when you are correct for the doctors, for the law, then and for yourself especially, then I don't think so you need to care that much.
So my journey of Section 377 has been extremely overwhelming, and I still feel that the journey is not yet over, because Section 377 must have gone down, but at the same time, we are still fighting. We're still fighting for a huge homophobia and transphobia. We're still fighting for civil, citizen rights. We're still fighting for equality and equity among the society. We're still fighting for that one day when the families will, all the families will of the gay people, LGBTI people will say that my child is like that, and this is perfectly fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with raising a child, and I will not compromise on my child's freedom and dignity, and I will not allow my child to go out of my house and live in a very precarious and difficult situations. I consider my child as mine. I also consider the sexuality and gender expression of my child is also ours, and that is what we are heading towards right now. Section 377 has gone down, and there has been a sigh of relief, but at the same time, as I say always, that policies don't change mindset of people. There has to be a bigger movement on Section 377 afterwards, and which is we are right now working towards.
If you look at what is the way forward from here, just make a couple of points. Clearly, in terms of the judges around the country, the judiciary is internalized the ruling of Tet-e-Te and is recognizing the fundamental rights of LGBT people to live the life that they choose with the person that they choose. And that's an important development which we see. But then we go back to the 2018 judgment. Justice Nariman makes the very important point that what is important is that the government popularize the judgment with all means, using all the media at their disposal, and the government, both central and state, also conduct training programs both with the police and with government officials on the fundamental principles of the judgment. And here is where the big gap is. The government has done absolutely nothing in the last 2 years to take forward the judgment in any fashion at all. This is a very, very important point and very, very significant gap in the response of the government. Because whenever people ask, what is the government doing? The answer is nothing, and the government should be doing a lot more. This is because, again, you go back to the judgment. Why was Justice Nariman insisting that the government do something in terms of popularizing the judgment? Because the judges recognize, end of the day, combating prejudice against the lesbian, bisexual, gay and transgender community is a matter which rests not just with the state but with civil society. Opinions in society have to change as well. For that, it's very important that the government take a leading role in beginning to combat the stigma and discrimination, which ensures that the right to equality and the right to life of LGBT persons is not fully respected in this country even till today. So I think I'd end with that and say that there's a lot more work to be done by government, by civil society, by the mental health professional, by the cultural industry, by media, all of which must aim to combat the prejudice and discrimination which LGBT persons face. Because again, I think to go back to the judgment and what the judges cite in Baker and the idea of constitutional morality, when they make the point that democracy in India is progressing on a soil which is essentially undemocratic, and they go on to say that constitutional morality is not a natural sentiment, it has to be cultivated. So really the task going forward is how do we cultivate the quality of constitutional morality such that the right to dignity and right to respect and right to life of LGBT persons is recognized by all arms of society and by people in diverse walks of life. And that's the challenge which we face in the time going forward.
What is the one major shift in society you see after this judgment? There's this atmosphere of freedom, that you finally are free. But they're so free that they don't look at the other aspects like blackmail and extortion. That's one of the biggest indicators. The amount of blackmail and extortion has gone up tremendously after the Supreme Court judgment. People have not thought about these issues. The effect on family, the effect on work environments, the work about, simple things like interpersonal relationships which should be private are coming out in the open, and they're leading to, police cases. For that, you need empowerment. You need people to be together. You need courageous people to go and file FIRs in police stations if they are blackmailed or extorted about. That's the only way forward. You can't be hiding in there after you are free. You need to go forward. And that's my feeling.
Today we are here in 2020, and it's been 2 years. The life is like, much different when we talk about, prior to 377 and post 377 verdict. So this is the day I think we all should celebrate, and it should be a remarkable day in the lives of LGBTQ in India.